Hey students, today we are going to look at how to write a story. What are the parts that make up a story? So we're going to be looking at the story structure. Today the story we'll be looking at is Benny and the Sea Monster. Now the genre, meaning what is the story type, what type of story is this? Is realistic fiction. Now, the fiction part tells you that this story didn't really happen, it's all made up. But the realistic part tells you it could really happen. So it is a made up story that could have happened and could still happen even to you. Right, let's read. The title Benny and the Sea Monster. We will see who Benny is in this story. Right. Ready to explore some tide pools? Uncle Tay asked. He looked down at Benny and Jada, who rested on a big beach towel. The three of them had left home at dawn. They had driven a long way to get to this special beach. Benny yawned and sat up. He liked playing at the water's edge. He loved seeing the blue waves roll into shore like moving mountains with white edges. The breeze cooled him, but Benny was not sure he was in the mood for tide pools. He was not sure he liked tide pools at all. Right, there's Benny and there's Jada and Uncle Tay. And see where they are? They are on the rocks. Now, this is a tide pool, and you will see what a tide pool is. This is where the sea comes in when it's high water, high tide, and when it pulls back, this is left over. And a lot of sea creatures are very happy about it. There you can see some sea stars, some barnacles, and if you look nicely, there's a octopus lying there, and inside there are lots of others that we don't even know. Some mussels clinging here. Typical sea creatures. Right. Let's go on. Benny's cousin Jada had told him all about tide pools. Now, Benny is the boy and Jada is his cousin. Right. So they are not brother and sister, they're friends, but they're cousins. You are friends with your cousins too, right? They sounded awful, he thought to himself. They were full of strange looking, slimy, sea creatures. Benny did not like anything slimy. He hated worms and slugs and snails. Ugh! A high tide, at high tide, the ocean water came far up the beach. It covered most of the sand, leaving only a tiny part dry. Then low tide came. The waters pulled back again, leaving the beach wet. Low tide also left tide pools. These were like small puddles filled with living sea creatures, and normally they would be found between the little rocks on the beach. Water worms, crabs, and clams, Jada shouted as they walked towards the tide pool. Horrible, slimy sea creatures! Be careful! They will crawl up you and stick to your skin. Jada laughed. Penny knew she was teasing him and trying to worry him. She was older, and Uncle Tay had taught her all about sea animals. Jada was not scared of water worms, whatever those were. Now, Jada, you can figure out from here that Uncle Tay taught Jada, so that's probably his uncle, and because Jada is his cousin. So this is probably her dad. Jada is Uncle Tay's daughter. Right, let's move back and discuss a little more about the story. Right, first let's look at the words creatures. Now, the word creatures are just means that they are animals, living things. Now, creatures could be found anywhere. Now, these creatures were in the tidal pools, right? But they just mean living things, many different ones. Some we know, some we don't. Okay. To explore, what does it mean to explore? Right. To look at new places and things. Explore means something we've not done or seen before. Okay. Mood. Some people are moody, some people are not. I'm not in the mood for swimming. I'm not in the mood for games. That just means that's how I feel. That's the attitude I have, how I'm feeling inside. Okay, at a time. Right. Now, let's talk about the structure of the story because this is what this is all about today. Now, the structure of the story is very similar to, I like to compare it to a burger. You have your bread, the bottom part of your burger bread, your bun. Then the middle part will be your meaty and tomato and the relish, whatever you want, and cheese, whatever you like on your burger. And then the ending is to top it all off. You end it off by closing your burger, right? That's exactly what happens in a story. So, important that you remember there are three main parts in a story: the beginning, the middle, and it must have an end. Otherwise, your story is just hanging. Right. Let's carry on. Oopsie. How do we get this out of the way? Right. Often, okay, now let's look at the thing we call characters. What are characters? Now, characters are the people in a story and they make up the story. Those are the people you hear about and you see, or they do things or they talk. Not if they say, my mom at home, she's not a character if she's not in your story at the time. So you have different characters that make up your story. But then there's one that is called the main character. Now, the main character is the person whom the story is mostly about. Now, in this case, if I asked you who is the main character in this story, the nice thing is you can actually go see, if you go to the title, what is the main character here? His name actually even appears in the story. So that makes him a very good possibility of being the main character, which he is. We learn all about him and things that how he feels and what he thinks, mostly because it seems he's telling the story almost, right? It's from what he hears and sees. Okay, let's continue. So characters are the people in the story. The main character is the person that the story is mostly about. And in this case, it would be Benny, this boy. All right, let's continue. Now we see something called the setting. What is the setting of a story? That only means where does the story happens, and the setting more often than not is found around the beginning. Now if you look at things that are happening, number one, we're talking about a beach towel. So what does that tell you? If there's a beach towel, what does that tell you? That probably happens on the beach. And then we see here the special beach. Right. So if they asked you where this happens, definitely it looks like it happens on the beach. Well, where else will you find tide pools with sea creatures? Definitely there. Right. So the setting, The story setting is where the story takes place. Now, in paragraph 2, you underline the details that tell you about the story setting, and that's just what we did now. Okay, let's continue. Important to look at the different parts of the story. Sometimes the setting also includes the time. Now, if you go to your story and I ask you, when do you think this happens? Now, they tell you in paragraph 2, they say the three of them had left home at dawn. Dawn is the break of day. It's in the morning, early in the morning. And the fact that Benny yawns tells me he's still tired. They woke up so early to come to the beach. Right, it says here they left the home at dawn. So that's the best time to go to the beach, definitely. Right, continue. Right. Now, another big thing you need to remember in a story is your problem. Now, the problem in a story, there's always a problem. And it's always about the main character that needs to solve this problem. Something that he doesn't like, that makes him uneasy, that makes him unhappy, or upsets or bothers the character. Right. Now, I'm going to ask you to check what is bothering Benny at this time. What is Benny's problem? What do you think? Right. They say let's go to paragraph 3 and 4. Let's go to paragraph 3, which is a little bit higher. All right. Now, it says here, but Benny was not sure if he was in the mood for the tide pools. He was not sure he liked tide pools at all. Now, that is a problem. Why does he not like tide pools? Let's move on. And then it says they sounded awful. All right. And Jada tells him, she teases him about it because it's full of strange looking things. They are slimy sea creatures. And Benny did not like anything slimy. He hated worms and slugs and snails. Ugh. So guess what is his problem? He does not like slugs and worms and snails and anything slimy and creatures that you might find in tidal pools. So that to him is really not a pleasure to be out there today. Right. So every part gets, every story has a problem. And that is something that needs to be solved in some way. And we all hope that the story ends on a good note, that in the end, we find that he solves the problem in some way so that he gets past it. So let's see here. In the ending of a story, we learn how things turn out for the characters. How do you think this story will end? Now, we won't know yet, but we will continue next week, and then we will see a little more of what happened and how the story is going to unfold. Please don't read ahead. That is cheating. Okay, I'm going to be asking you some questions in your assignment. I need you to go and complete your assignment. Fill in your full name. Make sure your email address is there. And then turn in at the end of your paper. When you are done, make sure you turn it in. I don't want any photographs. You just send it right off. We immediately receive it and we will check it after that. Thank you for listening. Now you can move on to your story questions. You can always come back to your story again. You can use your book to come back and go read up more about your stories. Do not just check away. Answer your questions carefully. Check your answers in the story before you just answer the question. Thank you for listening.